Welcome back, everyone. We are so excited to present the next round of speakers. This session will be on customer acquisition and retention and curating the right sales team. We have two presenters with us for this session. And first up is Erik Host-Steen from S&P Alignment. He's the founder and CEO. S&P Alignment helps business leaders achieve revenue goals by using simple and effective tools to align the company's sales, marketing, and product functions to a market-centered purpose, vision, mission, or strategy. All right, Erik, I'll kick it off to you.
Hello. I had some instructions. If you haven't seen yet, this is a very formal studio. And I need to first share my screen on Zoom, right? Shoot. PC. Where'd that go? We're getting there. Hope. Presentation mode. It's awesome. It burns time. All right. Looks awesome. All right. So thanks for tuning in today. Title of the talk is Customer Acquisition and Customer Retention, Theory versus Practical Reality. So we're going to sort of build up sort of the theoretical way things work and then talk about real life examples about where things go. And notice that the retention here is called out in the title, and that is because retaining customers is far less expensive than acquiring customers, so it's important to focus there. So, going in reverse order, of course, the goal here is to retain customers. Question is, which customers and why? Prior to retaining customers, they have to, of course, make the decision to buy the very first time. And this is often where we think about sicking the sales team on them. And then before that, we have to go through the consideration phase. And this consideration phase usually takes longer and involves more people. The more expensive the product is and the more risky the decision might be. And before that, there needs to be awareness, not just only of awareness of your particular product, but awareness of the problem that it is that they're solving. So we typically flip this upside down. This is the first round of marketing jargon, and we call this sort of thing the funnel. And it moves from awareness through consideration, decision, and then retention. Some people like to see this left to right, and that will often show up that way in, let's say, a CRM system. But I have a particular client that's trained me that we need to draw the funnels vertically because gravity helps. And we need every little bit of help that we can when it comes time to moving people through. So it also notice that it's the shape of the funnel is like a funnel, not horizontal, or rather vertical, because otherwise we'd be calling this the tunnel. And what happens is there's leaks in the funnel. So you think about this process much like maybe like a manufacturing process, and along the way we're going to have yield or losses that move along, that happen along the way. And then the way that people actually go through this funnel is what we usually call something called a buyer's journey. And unfortunately, it's never really linear and straight like the arrows suggest. So we have to get those out of the image. And what happens, in fact, is it's usually a very, very messy process, where customers will come into become aware of the problem that they're having and aware of the solution that you offer, and sort of bounce around there, hem and haw for a bit. They might move to the consideration phase where they're thinking about changing, but then might ghost on you for a little while and disappear. And this whole thing is really sort of messy, and many times business owners or startup founders find this to be pretty frustrating because, geez, why, my product is so amazing, why can't people just flow through? And I ask you to think about a corporate buying decision that you may have been involved with in the past, and think about how many times it's moved smoothly through the system, or a major significant purchase in your own world, how many times you've thought you were close to buying said product, but then going back and doing more research or talking to more friends or deciding that you want to try out some other things before you go through. So all of this, right, is really quite frustrating. And that's just sort of the way it goes, but there are things that we can do as founders and commercial teams to set our companies up for success. But just to drive this point home, I want to share a story that demonstrates how difficult our jobs are as company leaders to move people through our funnels. So some more jargon, right? So many times in the startup world, we talk about things like the total available market, sometimes called the TAM or SAM or some cool sounding acronym like that. And we think, boy, if I could just be in front of my customers when they have a triggering event, and boy, if this triggering event were so serious, like, let's say my life is in jeopardy, and let's say I have a product that is pretty sure to be significant in helping save said life. And wouldn't it be great if the price was right? Maybe free. Maybe it would be awesome if the inventory was in place, we didn't have any supply chain issues, and so much so that product is already available and literally right between your legs. Boy, wouldn't it be just so easy to be able to sell this product? So here's a clue. Flight 1549, which was the famous Captain Sully flight that took off from LaGuardia Airport in January of 2009, had 150 passengers on it as the total available market. All of them had just gotten a product presentation about the life vest, blow here, pull on the straps. We've seen it all before. And all of them took off. Remember that both engines went out, and it was known by all the people on the plane that the airplane was not going to make it back to the runway, and in fact was going to have to land in the Hudson River. And no one knew that Sully, the famous captain, was going to save the day, and therefore we're not sure if their arms and legs were going to be able to work and they'd actually be able to swim in the eventual water evacuation. How many passengers of the 150 took this life vest with them off the plane? The answer is 33. So nearly 8 out of 10 people had this amazing product at their fingertips that they had just seen a presentation, blah, 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 and didn't take it with them. So this is where the theory and the practical reality come crashing together, and we have to deal with these difficult realities. So what do we do about it? Let's go down, and we're just going to quickly break down the funnel into the 4 pieces and talk briefly about some of the key elements. So this first part is awareness, and this is what the cool marketing people usually called the top of the funnel, and we'll abbreviate it as TOFU, and it has nothing to do with your favorite soy product. And this is where we have to really start thinking about who our ideal customers are. And we do this by building out specific personas and also by building out a market segmentation schema that identify exactly who those customers are. And once we've got that figured out, we have to start doing some marketing. We talk about sometimes doing inbound versus outbound marketing, and this is always sometimes confusing. So here's a fun little story that will help you figure this out. So let's imagine you're single for a moment. Maybe this is real, maybe this is a figment of your past life, and you're trying to figure out who or you're trying to go out and find your ideal mate. And let's say, for example, you also are only like 2 kinds of music, both country and Western, and jazz and rock and those sorts of things just aren't all that interesting to you. And you're deciding that, if you want to find a bear, you need to look in the woods. So I'm going to get myself ready and go out on a Friday or Saturday night to my favorite country and Western bar to listen to some music and find a suitable partner. So the pre-work is all the same, no matter whether you're doing the inbound or outbound work. You have to think about who it is that you're trying to attract. You have to think about what your unique value propositions are. Make sure you take a shower, put your best foot forward, and head out onto the town. So inbound marketing would be as if you were to get yourself all ready and go sit at the bar and hope for your ideal mate to come and start a conversation with you. But that might be risky because this person might be a little bit crazy. On the other hand, outbound marketing would be going through those same activities and deciding that you are going to find someone out in the crowd and go start a conversation with them. That would be like the outbound email. But in this case, you buy extra Pabst Blue Ribbon and you bring it over to the person that you'd like to start a conversation with, and you and you start that dialogue. Now here you run into similar risks. One, the person still may be nutty, or this person may not find you attractive at all and may not want to have a conversation. But the point is that there's all of this, the odds of finding the person that you might want to get to know more. The odds always go up when you leave home and go do something about it. The next stage of the funnel is the consideration phase, and this is where what happens here? Oh, this is where change has to happen. This is where people have to start contemplating whether or not they're going to, the problem that they're aware of and the solution that you're offering, and that they're going to have to go through this sort of internal dialogue and change analysis to figure out whether or not this is something that they might want to do. And this is always difficult, right? I like to pick on my good favorite physicist, Sir Isaac Newton, who his first real law is that an object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an outside force. But in the world of business, I've changed this to say a business at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by a crisis. And if you've been through any sort of therapy sessions before, you may have heard of these 6 stages of change. And this first one is pre-contemplation, which is where people are not at all ready to make a change. They get into the contemplation stage, or they start thinking, maybe this is something I ought to do. And then they go through the preparation stage of things, where they really start making to prepare to make these changes. Then they actually take action. And then at the end, they go through this maintenance phase where they're actually maintaining that change. Now, we know in reality that people will flop up and down through these stages of change, much like they will in a sales funnel. But it maps pretty closely to this idea of first awareness, then consideration, and then ultimately ending in retention, where that change is locked in and then they're staying with you for the long haul. Next phase of the funnel is the decision-making phase. And I want to warn the audience to avoid this sort of false character of the mythical decision maker. And that is, many times sales teams or marketing say, we just need to get to the decision maker. But I would argue that that's insulting to people in the decision-making process, because all of us are in fact decision makers. I chose to wear this shirt today. You chose to come and watch this session. You might be regretting that. But nevertheless, there were decisions that were being made. I also have a story of a CEO that I worked for in a company several years ago. I was sitting at his table at the holiday party, and he was saying, I always wanted to be the boss. I want to always be the CEO so I could make decisions. And then here I am, CEO of this publicly traded company, and I've got 12 bosses. And this number 12 happened to coincide with the number of people on the board of directors, of which he had to convince most of them that his decisions were the right ones. I also had a scenario in my own practice where I had a CEO tell me, we're going to start working together and we're going to start next week. Next week rolls around. I'm like, okay, I'm going to show up. What's going on? What are we going to do? And it comes to find out that he changed his mind. And upon reflection on my sort of post-mortem of what happened, I remember him saying during the discovery phase that there was one particular member of the board who, quote, had it out for him. And I needed to, I took that as my own responsibility and one of those hard life lessons that just because you're working with the CEO, who you might think is the decision maker, the title and who actually are the bigger influences on the decision-making process. They're not necessarily connected. And then finally, we get into the retention phase. This is, again, where customer success or customer service, depending on the industry you're in, are incredibly important, because you've gone through all of this time and energy and effort and expense to get people through the funnel to be customers. And this is where a lot of companies screw up, because they don't have the operations in place to make sure that people are having an enjoyable experience once they've come. And certainly we know that when we do have bad experiences, we tend to tell our friends more about that than the good ones. So it's incredibly important to have strong customer success delivery operations in place in order to make sure that this funnel has as few leaks as possible. So some summary points. Remember that we are dealing with a funnel. It is not a tunnel, so we're going to have yield losses along the way. This one is really powerful, is that recognize that marketing and sales activities are probabilistic functions and not mechanistic functions, meaning you can do all of the things right and smart, and you're not going to necessarily get the one specific blue M&M that you're looking for in the vending machine to drop, even though you put in the right money and turn the crank the right way. The buyer's journey is often chaotic. Very few people or companies move through the journey in a linear, smooth way. It's our role as a commercial organization to help facilitate that process. Think of it as being like a deal Sherpa. Just like people that are climbing up the top of Mount Everest, the Sherpa doesn't actually carry them, but does make things easier for them along the way. But ultimately, it is on the buyer to move themselves through this particular journey. And given all the things that are completely outside of your control in this process, it's incredibly important to identify those things that are within your power and focus on those things. And with that, I would say thank you for listening, and if there are questions, I'd be happy to address them.
All right. Thank you so much, Erik. And we are going to do Q&A after our next speaker. And so, but thank you a lot, Erik. That was super interesting, and I think I have never heard as many analogies on the funnel, and I loved it. So thank you again. Okay, so up next we have Lori Raymond. Lori is the Regional Market Manager for Specialty Appliance, Inc. Lori manages the Fort Collins and Louisville showrooms and leads the charge for their sales team. Having spent most of her career in the appliance and building industries, Lori is passionate about the design community she works with. She currently serves on the executive boards for the American Society of Interior Designers and the Home Builders Association of Northern Colorado. And Lori, with that, I will kick it to you.
All right, thank you so much. One second here. Some technical difficulties as well. Okay, gotcha. Here we go, sorry. You think I would know how to do all this after all these Zoom calls we've had over the last year and a half. But again, thank you so much for having me. My name is Lori Raymond. I am with Specialty Appliance. What a fun platform to be able to talk about just, the business and kind of the culture that we're living in here, and just excited to be here on behalf of Specialty Appliance. As Caroline said, I am the North Market Manager for Specialty Appliance. I do lead 2 sales teams, both in our Louisville and Fort Collins showrooms. And this was a job, a position that I was promoted into last fall, so kind of during a COVID environment. And a lot of times, today I will be talking about curating and developing and what kind of curating means and how to develop a sales team. But I was just thinking about listening to Erik's conversation. Sometimes we have various personalities we work with, and it's our up to us as far as managers to be able to curate those personalities that are on our team and develop those sales teams so they work most effectively. So let's go ahead and jump into that here. Basically, what I wanted to start with is talking about what curate means. Probably most of you hopefully listened yesterday to Maggie Civic's presentation from ARC Thrift Stores. We were talking about some marketing buzzwords and what curate means, and basically is to take charge or organize. So when I'm trying to curate a sales team or curate a right person for a sales team, I need to pull together and kind of select various personalities and so forth to have the right individual. But in business, to curate is the act of examining a number of items and selecting what you consider to be the best of the bunch. So again, you're going to have various personalities in a sales team, and it's to look at those attributes of those individuals. So kind of simply put, we're going to talk about today is curating means to identify the key attributes and traits of what's most important to your business culture. Because what might be as far as individual that I'm looking at as far as potential salesperson may not be the same in your business. So let's kind of talk about a little bit what that means today and how we can go about finding that right individual to continue to build your sales team. All right, so it's kind of from where you could start, for example, is look internally. Specialty Appliance, kind of just a backstory. We've been around for 20 years now. It is a locally business here in Colorado. Our founders are two gentlemen that actually worked for big box stores back in the day, and wanted to kind of branch out and start a business of their own as far as on the installation side. And then from there, we have these showrooms both down in the tech center and then now in Louisville and Fort Collins, and we well as have various warehouse locations all over the Front Range area. But we have a lot of internal candidates that we have looked at over the years and been able to promote from within. So you really, as far as looking at a sales team, maybe have people that you worked with in the past or have folks that have helped you as far as on the admin side of your business that want to possibly move into sales and so forth. So you can look internally. I know we have a great sales gal now out of our Greenwood Village showroom down in the tech center that started out in the accounting side and the admin side of our business, and 3 years later now she is a really successful salesperson and doing great working with builders and designers and clients in our showroom. So she's a great success story. I actually have a new salesperson starting in our Louisville location next week that he's been one of our installers, been in the field and been on job sites for the last several years, and he wanted to change and kind of wanted to develop within his career, and he's coming over to us next week in a sales role. So really excited to have that. Again, we'll talk a little more about it as far as culture and so forth, but these individuals know the culture and they're moving into different roles within the company, so it's really exciting. Next thing, as far as employee referrals, you could have friends and so forth. We actually do have some family members and some friends of friends that have worked in various industries. Good candidates are out there, especially now. I know that there's a huge workforce as far as gap right now, but looking for as far as changing careers. A lot of times your current employees might have great referrals, and we do, as far as with specialty, do have a referral bonus program. So you may want to talk about possibly doing that within your company. It's a great way to get good people and to retain and develop those people as well within the company. And again, a big thing that we do, we work a lot with manufacturers, so we network with our suppliers, customers, colleagues, and other social contacts. So really, you never know as far as people moving in and out of the metro area. They may have come from the same industry in a different part of the country or have worked for a various supplier. I know personally, I have been in and out of the appliance and construction business for years, but I actually got back into appliances with specialty over 3 years ago. Used to work with my boss, now currently used to work with him years ago for a different company. So you never know who you might come across. It might be a great benefit to your team down the way, so something to always think about and network with, industries you may be involved with. Professional trade associations. As Carolyn had mentioned, I'm very involved with Kitchen and Bath Association. We work closely with them in our business, as well as home building associations. And so they have great referral bases as well to get good employees, maybe folk that's been in the field, maybe want to go in more of a sales route and so forth. So you always can network with those trade associations. And we've hired and had very successful salespeople that have come from being a designer in the past or used to work for a builder. So it's all kind of interconnected, and really, and we'll talk about it a little bit as far as sales development, it's really a relationship business, so you can really get great candidates by people that you may work with day in and day out that may be interested in a job change. And again, we can always look to as far as online. We do a lot of LinkedIn posts and so forth. I know that Indeed is a big source as far as advertising, job posting and so forth. But again, there's a lot out there, so I would actually look at the ones we talked about earlier as far as looking internally and looking at various employee referrals and so forth. But advertising is always a good option. And then lastly, the sales force that's coming out of our local universities and colleges is a great avenue to get some good, hungry, recently graduated employees that want to start out in the business. I know that they've got some great skill set. We actually recently just brought in a new marketing assistant who came in from a local university, just graduated not too long ago. So someone who's new and kind of hungry and looking to start their career and join a great team. That's something we want to look at as well. And then you can even talk to, kind of go back to the employee referrals. You may have friends or coworkers that have kids that are recently graduated from university or college, but definitely it's a great avenue to look at for potential salespeople. So kind of to dive in a little bit as far as the key attributes and traits that you may want to look at. Again, this is not a tell-all, but just some things that I have felt that in my experience you really want to look at as far as a team member and as far as getting the right salesperson and bringing them onto your team is their experience. Of course, if you hire someone out of college, I almost kind of think then you can groom them to where you want them to be within your organization, how to mold them. But as far as past work experience, they come from a different industry. You want to look at that. You want to look at their background and any sort of other industry experience they may have. A big thing that I really like, and not only experience, because I think sometimes you may have a candidate that doesn't really have a personality and they have some great experience, but they're not going to be the best fit within your organization. So I think a personality traits, really looking at those is a big thing. Again, you want to look overall at your team. I know that my Louisville team, for example, is a little different from my Fort Collins team, and I know kind of the mix that maybe certain individuals couldn't work at either location, but they do work well together. And when I'm looking at new hires, I want to make sure they're going to fit into the team dynamics. Like, it's good to have a balance, for example, of introvert versus extrovert. I know, for example, I'm very much an extrovert, but my counterpart that covers the South region with our company, he's more of an introvert. So we balance each other out. We also kind of battle it out sometimes, but in the end, we have, the company's purpose and the goal in mind. So it's really important to think about that in your team too. You want to have a mix of extroverts and introverts, but of course in a sales environment, how to pick a good candidate in sales, being an extrovert, being able to talk to people, folks that are coming into our showroom, for example, or meeting our clientele, we want to have that outgoing personality. But you can have a mix as well in that. So a big thing too, we'll talk about it a little bit here as far as interest, but what I really try to get to the kind of the nut of an individual, the core of the individual of what kind of keeps them motivated. In a sales role, if you are hiring for a salesperson, I really think it's important to have a motivated individual. A big thing is, we want our salespeople to make the most money they possibly can. I'm here to support them in my role, but we need to kind of find out those things that are going to trigger them as far as motivation, whether it be income, as far as income potential or teamwork. And sometimes, we have a lot of salespeople that just need to have a that a boy or that a girl throughout the day or throughout the week or throughout the month to kind of keep them encouraged and so forth. So I really try to find out kind of what their interests are, what motivates them, and kind of help that also keep them moving forward and developing in the sales process. And kind of a big thing I want to talk about, I'm going to talk about this a little later as well, but when I'm looking at candidates as far as on my team, I want to see how they're going to be a part of our culture. And the culture, what I mean by that is both my team as far as in my Louisville location or Fort Collins location, but also overall company culture. We're a very family-oriented company. Like I said, have gone from very few employees 20 years ago to we've actually just acquired 2 locations up in the mountains. So we're over, I believe, like 150 employees now. So we have quite a success story, but you really have to look at the overall culture. Very family-oriented, very work hard, play hard culture. And I really like that because I feel like it's a good balance. We don't have that corporate culture, but it's still a very, well-driven, developed team and so forth and company culture. So you really have to think about that overall, how that individual is going to fit within that culture. And sometimes, I've learned over the experience here over the years that sometimes the person is not going to fit in the culture, and that's okay. They'll fit maybe someplace else. So I got to know your company culture and know that individual to see if they'll fit in with your company. So as far as the team goes, we're talking about the individuals that you're looking at as far as to hire and kind of some key attributes and so forth. But what I also like to think about, as I mentioned before, is to talk about how they're going to balance out or work well with the team. Like I said, my Louisville team is a little different than my Fort Collins team. And yeah, could they work at both locations, and do they? Absolutely. But I definitely can see day in and out that those 2 teams are different, and that's okay. That's kind of what keeps each location kind of moving forward. And do we have perfect days right now in this industry? It's crazy, with COVID and everything. Our business is going gangbusters, but definitely it's a balance as far as to find that personality and to get that team all balanced together. So again, it's important to be an introvert and as far as the sales role, but you don't want. It's important to be an extrovert in the sales role, but you don't want all extroverts. It's a good balance to have some people that are a little more subdued. You have to have that good personality mix, as I mentioned here. And you want to be able to, when one person's having a bad day, the other person can pick them up and so forth and so on. So you got to have that mix that really keeps the team motivated and keep each other going. Because as kind of a sales manager, market manager per se, I can't be at both locations at all times. They need to be self-motivated and managed themselves. And like a lot of times we have customers or clients that may call in and I want to speak to a manager. Well, I've empowered my salespeople to be able to answer the question and take it upon themselves if I'm not available to address that customer with a concern and so forth. So it is definitely finding that mix, that person that can take charge, but also the person that can calm the other person down and so forth. So a big thing is I also, as far as a team member, when I am bringing in new salespeople, I can make sure to get the team's input. I make sure I introduce that candidate, bringing in someone to the whole entire team to kind of get their feel as far as their personality and make them involved in the process. Because again, I'm not there all the time and in one particular location. That individual is going to have to be working with the whole team day in and day out. So you want to make sure you get the buy-in and the support from your team members because they're going to be working with them every day. So it's important to have like a team effort, even in the admin side. I just recently brought in a new admin gal in our Louisville location, and I made sure that we had some sales team members that were part of that interview. It's important because they're supporting, that individual is supporting the team day in and day out, and they have to be able to work well together. So that's a really important to have input and make sure that you have buy-in from all team members. And again, I wanted to reiterate the culture. Sometimes you just know when you meet an individual as far as the team, they're just not going to be part of the culture, and you have to have that location or that team in mind as far as how they're going to work well together, as well as the overall company culture. And you'll if you ask the right questions as far as an interview, you can know that pretty quickly. So make sure that you are aware of the kind of the culture. Talk with your team beforehand and kind of know what individual you're looking for and how they can best move forward with that. So as far as team development, again, this is something that's I take a lot of pride in, but again, it's a work in progress. No one's perfect. Like I said, I took on this new role in the company last fall, kind of in the middle of COVID per se. So we were mostly in our showrooms, but we all were also were working remote. So it's important as far as to have that communication. But I think a big thing as far as team development, once you get the right candidates, you want to make sure you know your people, both in and out of the office. So I'm not saying you have to be best friends with somebody, because there can be conflicts of interest there as far as, knowing all personal aspects of the individual. But I really believe in having fun at work, and also like taking the team outside of the work, the stress environment, and getting everyone together to kind of create that team morale and see everyone outside the environment that we're in all day. So I really strive to kind of know some of my sales teams, their families, their kids. Many of the sales teams that have had growing families had new babies, and you just want to make sure that you're supporting that. Of course, if they have a healthy home life and personally they're happy, then they're gonna come to work and be really happy about that too. So you want to make sure to know them on a personal basis and be able to encourage them, because that's one really important thing as far as I think that COVID has taught us, is really the relationships as far as in business and in a team aspect, is getting to know your team, so they're there to support the company and support you as a manager as well. So, and that gives you a lot of, I believe that once you have a good team, they know that you have their back, and you know that they have your back, and vice versa. So again, I think it's important to give them some earned autonomy. I don't believe in micromanaging. I know that's hard sometimes, because I like to kind of get things done and take charge, but we really, and that's a big thing within our company, we really instill as far as our salespeople to manage their business. They work a lot with builders, large production builders, kitchen designers that have all sorts of projects and so forth. So we really instill them to manage the sales process from the start to the end. When they first come in our showroom, or they first start their project with building their house, all the way to the delivery, installation, and even follow-up service. So really, I empower them to manage their sales or their customers, and involve me as needed as far as support them. But it's really important that they feel like they have they get the empowerment and be able to manage them things themselves without me, controlling everything they do. So I feel that they have my support, and I believe listen, everyone makes mistakes, but I know that if they need support, I'm always there to help them. So I always try to also encourage collaboration, not competition. But I think in sales, it's kind of, it's normal, and it's kind of part of the sales process as far as competition. We do have our top salespeople, but also, again, to kind of create and encourage collaboration within the team. That's why I think that, kind of going back, it's good to have both, in and out of the office activities and kind of team building events to actually encourage that, because competition's good, but we want to make sure that we're including everybody in that, and everyone's part of that. And rally around performance. We've had a lot of success. Have we been perfect over the years? Absolutely not. Do we stumble from time to time? Absolutely. But we do strive day in and day out for great customer service, for a great customer experience. And I think that that's important as far as to really encourage the good performance, and congratulate salespeople as they perform well, or have a good a good report or a good review. We regularly do have reviews that we do look at on Yelp or on Google, and we make sure if we do have a positive review, we make sure to reward our salespeople with a small gift card and just say, hey, thanks for the good review, because as you guys know, reviews go a long way, and so it's all about encouraging that. And then, one salesperson sees that, oh, they're getting a great review, and they've got a little, gift card. Oh, I want to do a good review. So it encourages that collaboration, that, positive performance. And again, as far as sales, it does all come down to clear communication and metrics. We do have sales goals. You want to make sure you're regularly meeting with your sales team and talking about those goals and so forth. You want to make sure that they know what's expected of them, and be able to kind of follow up with them on a regular basis. That's really important. And again, a communication, it goes back to expectations and following up with them. I believe, and kind of on a side note, if there is, something as far as a negative experience that comes out, I believe in, positively approaching them, and then talking about the negative aspect or negative review, and then ending it in a positive. So it's that positive, negative, positive feedback that I believe that people really do react with. Kind of again going on as far as some extra things, find coachable people. I think it's important to find people that want to be a part of your team, that want to grow, that want to have that income potential, but also that want to learn. I mean, no one's perfect. Everyone is, makes mistakes day in and day out. I know I do. And I want someone to be able to tell me, hey, Lori, maybe think about doing it this way next time. And I want salespeople on my team to think about that as well. It's not always their way. So again, a big thing too, kind of moving forward here, lead by example. I believe I don't have a per se desk or an office at my showrooms. I do sit with my team in our Louisville showroom. We've got a sales bullpen, and then our showroom is where we meet with clients and so forth. It is more of a destination showroom, but I actually sit in the back with my sales team. I really feel like that's the way I can kind of get to, kind of hear what's going on day to day and be a part of it and kind of give my guidance. And also they can hear kind of what I go through on a day in and day out basis. But I think that if you lead by example, they're going to say, oh, Lori, she is not going to sit back in her office as a manager. She's going to be with the team here in the bullpen. So I definitely feel like leading by example is a huge thing, and it's been successful with us. Sales partnering, I highly recommend, like talking about the introvert and extrovert, having sales partners and maybe team up. If I've got about 10 people or so in one showroom and 7 or 8 people, kind of pair them up, knowing that they have different personalities, they can learn from each other. I think it's a great way to develop a team. And again, kind of going back, hire for cultural first. That's a big thing. You got to know your culture, both within your team. It may be different from showroom to showroom, by location to location, but overall the company culture. And again, relationships. Sales and building a sales team is really about relationships. You want to get to know the individual personally, but you want to be able to relate to your team members and develop them so you make sure you have a great culture, a great team overall. So, and that goes for both internally within your company as far as a team, but also your customers that you deal with day in and day out. You want to make sure you're building those relationships and getting to know that person, because that's a big thing with me. I want to, you never know who you're going to meet in this world or in this industry that may know someone and know someone and so forth, and may need appliances or is remodeling their kitchen or building the house. And it's really all about relationships. That's really important as far as developing your team and kind of moving that forward. So again, kind of just to summarize here, I really believe that kind of teamwork makes the dream work. Strong teams are built on encouraging autonomy. And I've always said throughout the presentation here, a culture is a big thing, both within your team and also in your organization. So know that culture, be able to hire an individual based upon that culture, get to know that individual before bringing them on. A little plug here for Specialty Appliance. As I mentioned before, we are here in business for 20 years. It's really exciting. We have 3 kind of destination showrooms around the Colorado Front Range area. We do actually have a warehouse down in Colorado Springs as well, and warehouses in Denver. We've actually moved up to, like I said, the mountains. We do have a location moving over to the Specialty Appliance family in Avon and Basalt, but as well as I cover the Louisville and Fort Collins. So if you have any questions, my information's on here. Another plug is we do have a mobile showroom. This is actually kind of like a big thing these days here in Colorado with the food trucks. We don't consider this a food truck, but it's actually a mobile showroom. We have live appliances on it. For example, if you're around in Louisville this summer on Friday nights, we're at the Louisville Street Fair. We've got this trailer there. We've got our barbecue going. We've got all of our appliances. So come and see us at the Louisville Street Fair, but it's a lot of fun. And again, it's just it's showing that appliances are more than just appliances. It's an experience, and hopefully you'll feel that when working with us and so forth. So I hope that was informative today, talking about finding the right salesperson and developing the team. But I also wanted to end here. If you all listened yesterday to my girlfriend Maggie, who I mentioned before with ARC Thrift Stores. I want to see, I don't know if you have any out there that you guys can mention. She had put it out to this presentation today, if anyone is responded to the Hey Girl Hey Challenge.
We have a Maggie,
Oh,
who
that's Maggie,
responded,
yeah.
and we also have Lloyd,
Oh, okay,
who
awesome.
said, "Hey, girl, hey."
Sweet. Well, so with that, we're going to continue this on this week here at Longmont Startup Week. So if you join us tomorrow afternoon when Lori Jones moderates the afternoon sessions from noon to 3, if you type in "Hey Girl, Hey" in your responses, you will get not only a $20 ARC gift card, but also a $50 gift card from Specialty Appliance. So please join us. We're kind of talking about how word of mouth is very impactful in business. And so definitely join us tomorrow for the presentations and say "Hey Girl, Hey" in your chat, and you'll be able to win those gift cards. So just wanted to throw that out there. But thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Lori. That was wonderful. And okay, we have a couple questions from the audience here for Erik and Lori. The first question is, would you please describe your best suggestions for motivating someone who may be less than enthusiastic in a sales position?
Oh, that's a good one. Well, that's a thing. I actually have a personal experience with right now because motivation, I mean, I'm always kind of a positive and on-the-go person, but I would kind of say maybe sit them down and kind of talk about, as far as being motivated, maybe, sit down with them and talk about what does motivate them. There are always maybe different things, and maybe there's something going on in an individual's life that you're not aware of, and maybe this position, for example, as far as a sales role, isn't the right fit. Talking about culture and really trying to understand what their background is versus, the direction of your team and where you want this individual to go. But I would really recommend sitting down with an individual and kind of seeing what motivates them and what gets them going, and see if that aligns with your goals. And if not, then maybe we need to, readjust and examine their position within the company.
All right. And Erik, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Sure. I'll add to it. I say somewhat tongue in cheek that I'm not a people person, and what that means is that where I focus is a lot on what I call the structural elements of an organization, and sometimes from my own experience, when my goals aren't clear for me, or when what's being said and what's being done are in conflict, those things tend to make me sort of retract and move away from tapping into my own intrinsic motivations. So think about what's going on in the other parts of the organization that might be contributing to someone's sort of poor attitude.
Yep, that's a great point. Would you say that you are an inbound marketing in your analogy then?
I do both.
You do
do both, yeah.
You do both.
This is outbound.
This is outbound, exactly. Okay, and so we have a question here. In terms of the funnel, top of the funnel, where do you do the handoff from a marketing team to a sales team?
Start with the buyer's journey for your particular market first. Figure out as I mentioned, there's a natural progression that your customers are going to want to go through from awareness through decision. And depending on the organization or the type of product that you're in, that transition point is going to be different. As a general rule, marketing owns the top of the funnel, and as a general rule, the sales team owns the bottom of the funnel, but there are significant overlaps depending on industry.
Okay, great. And Lori, do you agree? Do you feel, how does that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I work really closely with our marketing. We've got a marketing team as well. It's a smaller team. We don't have, we're just a local company here in Colorado, but we do a lot of marketing events as far as business development. But I feel like it's kind of in our world, we market and so forth, and then that brings our clientele into our showrooms. That's when the sales process starts. So absolutely, I believe that marketing's huge. We do a lot of advertising, social media and TV and so forth, but also the mobile showroom is a marketing opportunity. And a lot of times we'll have it actually at our showroom so they can come in and visit our showroom and so forth. So I definitely believe that, marketing kind of starts the sales process, and then it's, my sales team that want to make sure to develop to, get that sale and keep things moving forward.
Great, wonderful. Okay, and what advice do you have on client retention? last question. Sorry, I just realized we are. Yeah.
So again, when we start with personas, we recognize what's important to a particular customer. And when we have a retention team, whether that be customer success or customer support, whatever words fit for your industry, recognizing what those metrics are for your customers and having those tied into the variable comp on what your customer success and customer support and success teams have, that will help tie that together pretty nicely.
Okay, great. All right. Lori, anything else?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much. That was a great team presentation there, and I really appreciate your time. So with that, we are going to close the morning session. Up next, I'm excited. We have a couple wonderful more sessions this afternoon, including one on how far will DIY get you in hardware development, another panel on authentic operational plans for DEI, and then we will close up the day with an introduction to employee ownership. And then don't forget, this afternoon and every afternoon this week, we have our in-person events. Tonight's events will be from 4 to 7 p.m. There's one at the Gross and Bart Brewery and one at the Roost. And there's special discounts and different offerings for Startup Week. So I hope to see you there. And lastly, a big shout out to our wonderful sponsors, ARC Thrift Stores, Avocet Communications, Ward Electric Company, Longmont Economic Development Partnership, Biz West, Left Hand Brewery, Docketly, Downtown Longmont, High Plains Bank, and Handprint Inc., Circle Graphics, Sticker Giant, and Chop 5. Thank you guys so much again for being here today, and we will see you next time.